How's it? Hang loose. Yeah, Mongoose Max Hawaii here for take 3. Just having some haste makes waste problems. Anyways, yeah. I'm looking into the Hurricane. See, my spellings are all wrong there. Hurricane Douglas. And that's right, we're looking at Hurricane Douglas here. And we're going to give you a little bit of anatomy. I've been through a number of hurricanes. And actually, a lot of times, to tell you the truth, most of the times they are not as scary as, say, for example, the tornado thing in Texas has been through and some other stuff. Just last night, though, we got a Alaska 8 point something or 7.8 Richter scale earthquake in the Aleutians, which would have placed a tsunami on the north shores of Oahu at about 10 minutes to 1 a.m. So that's a little awkward. Her tsunami never arrived, but it was a little scary. And in that time, Hurricane Douglas came up. So you can just go in and check out, a basic listing. But I wanted to show you a couple of websites if you want to get a little more serious about weather checking it out. One is weather.com. Weather.com. Now, this is a pretty good website here. We just have a feature story about Hurricane Douglas and Cruz is likely to sweep through Hawaii Sunday. Pretty much. This is supposed to be 5 hours ago, so this is supposed to be up there. A couple things about this.
Let's bring you an update on Douglas, which has become the first Eastern Pacific hurricane of 2020. Now, this is going to wind up bringing some rain and wind impacts to Hawaii, but you can see, while it's going to strengthen, it'll also weaken before it reaches the islands. So that weakening trend will happen as it encounters cooler water, drier air, and stronger wind shear.
And that's the thing right there, wind shear. Okay, this is a cone shape because they don't know if it's going to go more north, more south, or somewhere in between. If you look at those spaghetti ones, there's a track here, there's a track here. All this computer-generated tracks. Spaghetti, but this is like the generalized cone. They're not sure where, so cone of uncertainty. I just can't get enough of that. Cone of uncertainty. Kind of reminds me of that cone of silence from Maxwell Smart. Anyways, here we go. This one's pointed pretty much directly at the island chain from the east, Pam. Right? And storms in the past, like Iniki, which is pretty famous by now, they came up from the south, pretty much along this line. It goes El Nina, the baby, and they birth these monsters. The baby's giving birth to monsters. So they comes up from the south, around about here, and a lot of times pointed at Hilo. And by the time they get up here, wind shears and cooler water, it veers and goes along the length of the south of the island chain. And when it's done with the end of the islands, I guess there's some more open space. It's flat, open. Because imagine, this is all flat. Well, the Earth isn't flat, it's spherical, by the way. Like a ball. But moving across the ocean surface, for something like a hurricane, it's pretty much flat except when it gets to islands. And there's wind surrounding the islands that comes in here, blows around. So it gets up here, it goes around the south coasts, and then when it's done with the chain, it goes up north. So that's what Evie did. Hurricane Evie was the one before Iniki. Came up and it got pretty close to Oahu. So it rattled my bones. I was in my room, power went out, horizontal winds. I thought my room was going to come apart. It shook like freight train for a while. And then it went here. I was reading some Mark Twain. What was it? A night in King Arthur's court, or something like a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. via whatever flashlight, shivering in the corner of my room. Now, it went away in that direction. Now, Iniki, some years later, came up, did the same thing. Wasn't as close to us, but then when it got to Kauai, it went north and sat on Kauai for some reason for about 3 days. And Mr. Spielberg was filming his Jurassic Park movie at the time, and you might even see a clip, maybe you will see a clip in that Jurassic Park movie of Iniki they filmed out the windows. So those are some big ones. There was one that came up, was going to be, this was not too long ago, Category 5. It was aimed at Hilo, coming up from the south more or less. And then it veered off and it was headed right for Oahu. This is where Honolulu is. 1 million people right there in Waikiki Beach. There's a lot of stuff in it. It was headed right there as a Category 5. And wind shears basically tore its mother-loving head off. So basically, the body of it went that way, with the turning, circulating thing, and the head of it went up and over the islands and just poured down rain. It's kind of split it in half. This one, don't know. They said some stuff. Let's continue.
These are all things that are bad for tropical cyclone development and do
water.
lead to weakening. One of the most significant things about Douglas is it's one of the latest forming first hurricanes for the Eastern Pacific. The first.
Oh, yeah. Douglas, even though it's late, is number 1 in the season, and they predict about 6 hurricanes this season. Well, see if that pans out. Don't know. One time it was like hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and they all kind of puttered out and missed. They all turned into tropical storms and missed.
First hurricane typically forms in June, but you can see we're going to have that high surf moving in by Saturday, particularly on those east-facing coasts, and then we're also going to be focusing in on quite a bit of heavy rainfall and wind potentially lining up.
25-foot waves. Oh. So this is going to be pushing, and it's also going to be wind, and these things, I guess they're cycling this way. So it's going to be pushing massive wind and wave. Wind generates waves. Sun generates wind. Wind generates waves. And they're going to be 25 foot all along over here. Big time. That's not even like Hawaii 5-0. At the beginning, that's a nice clean wave. That's a tube clean wave. These are 25 foot massive storm stuff. That's scary.
Up on Sunday, but check out some of these wave heights that are going to be possible as we go into this weekend. So everybody needs to use caution as a result of that. Here's a look at the rainfall outlook through Monday with.
And this is probably, even though whatnot, this is going to be the biggest concern, I believe, is this rain. The rain comes down so hard in torrents that it really just, the geology, it just ain't set. It'll put down trees, put out outages. That's pretty fragile. I mean, it rains a little bit and people can't drive. But let's just skip over this lovely website. This is weather.gov, and then it clicks to just put in weather.gov, and here you go. National Weather Service. This is the stuff your forecasters are looking at. So don't blame them if they get it wrong. Blame this website. No, this is the most the most considered accurate. And since this is geared for Honolulu, just put in your zip right there and see what your weather is. Weather.gov. But this is Honolulu, so that's kind of like the, well, see, here's Honolulu. Here's Pearl Harbor. This would be Waikiki. This whole stretch. This is kind of like the South Shore, but then it's weird when it gets to north-south. But this whole area on this side, Kailua, some Kaneohe Marine Base is on this side, and this whole windward side, leeward, windward, this whole windward side is going to get plastered. So when you go Sunday night, 90%, 90%, 90% precip, on that side, guaranteed, it's 100% right across the board. I'm sure of it, I'll bet you. Put the zip and approve it, but I don't know a zip code over there. Why bother anyway? That's what it's going to be for sure. Now, 25-mile-an-hour winds, like a good stiff trade wind is 15. So it gets to 21 to 25, it starts making problems. Gusts of 36, there's going to be stuff going down. So the rain totally soaks the ground. 36, possibly 40-mile-an-hour wind, it pushes humongous trees over. And so these great, it's so sad, these huge, just legacy trees are taken out. And, oh, God, it's kind of sad. And it's also knocking down power lines, and power goes out. And we're Sunday night. This is like our Shakespeare and Sunday night. We're going to be reading Antony and Cleopatra. Oh, boy. Right. See if that power don't go up. Oop. And Cressida said, power outage. So this here, if you go to that, click on down there on the radars, it redirects you to the NOAA, National Oceanic, I don't know, a association of stuff, and it goes to NOAA, and it has image viewers, and it has different stuff, bandwidth, visible light, cloud covers, fog. This one's kind of interesting. Night microphysics, infrared, red veggie cirrus. So it's showing you different, where they try to slice through the atmosphere and upper, mid, and lower levels, and it shows you this should get really interesting later. But here's one I just like to do is this air mass, and you can just click on this. But first, before I click on that one, I want to show you how I select that one. Is I go Pacific, and let's go right to East Pacific, and pick air mass, and just show you this thing. And here he is. Now look at this pup. This is just a loop. Oh boy. See, this would be the El Nino stuff. I guess that's the Galapagos Islands or something. Oh boy. See, this is where it's all heated in the equator, and that's where they form, and then they putter off that way. But let's go. This isn't the one I really wanted. Not that one. I wanted Tropical Pacific. That's, oops. Haste makes waste again, and then pick air mass. There you go. Slow and steady. It's like Aesop said. 500 BC. Aesop. Tortoise and the hare fame. And this ain't no tortoise, no hare, because if this is huge, this is going across. This is like, wow. This is like the Pacific, freaking giant area. It takes 4 hours to go from here to here in an airplane. This thing's trucking. But it's not so much the speed of that, it's the size of that. So as it's over here, it still has warm air mass. Heat equals energy. Energy is going into this system, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what they predicted was this is going to go from tropical storm, and as soon as it hits a category 1, it's got the name. In this case, Douglas, because I guess C was used, and I don't know, they needed a name that began with D, and Dougie was probably too informal, so Douglas. No relation to Kirk. So anyhow, this one here, Douglas, as soon as it became category 1, they expected it to go category 1, and then back down to tropical storm, and then go foo-foo. That was the first thing they predicted. Well, that ain't gonna happen. So the latest thing is, this is already 1, and it's gonna go 2, pretty much 3, then go down to 2, and probably hit us at category 1 with 25-foot waves, all kinds of rain, which is, I got my little night light. My Donald Duck light night. Not really. I got some LED thingies. Besides, I wouldn't want Donald Duck. I'd rather Pluto. So there it is. This is going to come up, and I'm going to keep track of this and see if we can document the what hurricanes look like from the ground over here. Hopefully, I don't get my equipment totally wet, but it should be interesting. Plus, this is one of 6 this season. Happy hurricane season. So, hang loose and stay tuned. All 3 of my viewers. Mongoose Invasion. I don't know. Watch long time. Anyways, hang loose. Aloha.